So today, the content we're going to cover will be about getting the data, and I'll show you how you can get your LinkedIn data directly from your LinkedIn profile. Then how to clean and prepare the data so that it's usable for creating your CV. And then we'll see some quick tips about making your CV more interactive, like bringing in logos and using URLs. And finally, we'll see some charts that are really good for CVs. So we're not going to build the full CV today. I'm going to give you the bits that you need to start working on your own. And there is no emergency. I think this should take a bit of time. Like you might want to draw an outline of what you're trying to do and create a few charts, see what works, see how to not make it too crowded, because the idea is to show that you are data visualization savvy. And so if you create something that's full of colors and lots of different charts and difficult to read, then that's not the message you're going to convey. And finally, we can save it and see how to share it, maybe add a link to your Twitter or your LinkedIn profile, these kind of things. All right. Before we move to LinkedIn, I'd just like to share with you a few good examples of CVs. And CV is resume in French, so I assume this is the same in English, but I will just use CV and resume as synonyms. This is the link if you want to save it, and those are some resumes from Tableau Public users. So this is the one by Adam Crahen. It has a bit of an error at the moment, so I'll just let him know, but he did some cool interactive stuff where he displays his work. And I saw it when it was working. You would be able to click and see stuff from his different projects, like the Data Duo and his public speaking opportunities. So that was really cool. I will just let him know on Twitter that he has to check what's wrong. This is another one by Helena Dantas Pires, which is based in Portugal. It's really nice because you've got the timeline, which, sorry, my browser is refreshing. It has the timeline that is a very clear way of showing your academic and professional experience, probably better than just a bullet point kind of CV where you list your different schools and jobs. And then you can see her technical skills rated on a 1 to 5 scale, the languages she can speak, quite a lot. And she's added icons for interest, which is pretty cool and interactive. Then my colleague Midori did her own CV. This one is also really nice for interactivity because you can see that she has a portfolio of stuff. So for instance, if you click here, you will see a YouTube video that she created with a colleague. All right. Not sure you can get the sound, but just to show you that you could do this kind of things if you have projects that you're very proud of, if you've built a website, if you've been speaking at an event, then you can just link to a YouTube video or to the website. This one is by a French consultant. And what I really like about this one is this line chart of his skills, because it really reflects the obsolescence of skills. Like if you have IT skills that you don't maintain, sooner or later you're going to lose that skill, and only when you start learning again will you have a bump in the skill set. And this one is probably the craziest one, by Mark Jackson. You'll see that you have lots of stuff to click on. He also uses the obsolescence idea that I really like, and you have a timeline of his whole life, including private events such as his wedding, his kids, and then when you click and your browser is responsive, not like mine, then you will see a picture of his kids or of his wife displaying in the content area. So that's pretty cool. So that was just to get you warmed up, and hope it makes you want to create something as cool as that. All right, so now let's go to LinkedIn and see how you could get access to your data from there. What I will do is I will go to me, so I'll click on the little icon, me, and then in settings and privacy, you will see you have an area, a section that is called getting an archive of your data. And if you click on it, you should have two options. Mine is still not showing me the options because I downloaded my data 2 days ago, and apparently you need to wait maybe a couple of days before you get the opportunity to download again. But here is the question page from LinkedIn. I will share the link with you as well. And this is all the stuff you can download. So what I downloaded was just the basic package with all the things that are directly on my profile, like my positions, my languages, my schools. And then if you want more information from your LinkedIn, like maybe all the people who consulted your LinkedIn or stuff you've clicked on, comments you've posted, then this would get a bit more time to arrive. So you would be able to access it only 24 hours after you make the request. But I'll show you what's in the 10 minutes available package, and it's already more than enough to create your interactive resume. So you would choose, when I did it 2 days ago, I had two options, the small package in 10 minutes or the big package in 24 hours. I chose the small one. I made a request, and then 10 minutes later, I had an email in my mailbox, and I was able to download it from there or directly here from LinkedIn with the download button. Let me just show you how it looks like when you download it. It's a zip file that I will open in its folder. And then as for any zip file, you would need to extract everything. Sorry, my menu is in French here. Extract everything like this. And then you would see what's inside the zip file. So you see lots of different CSVs, text files. You also have a few media files. So all the pictures you've uploaded as part of your profile or as posts. And if you've, like me, imported your CV to create your LinkedIn, then you would have the PDF of your CV like you did, like you imported. All right, back to the data. We're going to open it in an Excel, so I'm not going to go through all of these CSVs. You would be able to explore yours as you download it. But what we're going to do, and you'll see I've prepared some of the data sets that we're going to use. What we will do for now is open the CSVs directly into Excel and see how they look like, but I will just focus on the most important ones, which is education, positions, professional positions, language skills, and for tech skills, I created it from scratch, so we won't use it. So let's start with positions. And just for people who like a bit of structure, I'll go back to the agenda. So we did defining data. We are about to enter cleaning and preparing data. So we're going to see what's in the data from LinkedIn, and then we'll see what you may want to add. Okay. So this is my sheet 3. I will call it positions because this is how the CSV file from LinkedIn is called. And then as it's a CSV, and sometimes you may have noticed if your language is like French or Spanish with some accents or weird characters, if you open directly the CSV in Excel, sometimes it doesn't recognize the accents. So I'll give you a quick tip about how to use this kind of CSVs to keep the accents. You go to data. Then here I'm using a low resolution because it will render better on the video, but you should have this menu already open here in this area. So here for me it's get external data. I will choose from text because CSVs are text files. And then I have my positions CSV. And this just gives you a menu where you can choose how you want to import the data that's in this CSV. So you choose it's delimited data by comma. It's a CSV. And then this is where you will be able to choose a language, like a file origin kind of language that will allow you to keep your accents. So by default, it's Windows and C, but I know that the one that usually keeps all of my accents is Unicode UTF-8. So I just go to the end of the list and find it. And then my data has headers, so I let Excel know. I click next. I tell Excel that the delimiter is a comma. Text qualifier, all right, there are not really text qualifiers. So you start seeing how Excel is breaking down your data. Then I'll do next. And finish. Excel asks me where I want to put it. I just want to put it in the first cell. And that's what I got. That's not very clean, as you can see. Some of my dates are off by a few columns. I've got some weird lines like this. And to be honest, this is purely my fault. If you look at my profile, you will see that the way I formatted my professional experiences is not really great. I put lots of dashes and I have commas here that are interpreted as comma separators. So that's why it's breaking down my columns in way more columns that I would expect. So what I can do is clean it up. I will spare you the process of cleaning it up. I would probably start, like when I did it, I started with the dates because some were off and I didn't want to get rid of them. So for instance, I brought this one back to this position, this job. And then I just got rid of the whole description that was broken down poorly because of my commas. And this will take you a couple of minutes if you've not been working for 20 years like me. And then what you would get is something like this. So once you clean it up, you have your company name, you have your title, you have a description. So what I did is I just brought back the descriptions directly from LinkedIn and copy-pasted it in one single cell. Then you've got your location and the start and finish date. Make sure they are recognized as date because that will make it easier to create charts later on in Tableau. And I did the same for the academia. So let me just do the same trick quickly. Open the academic records from Excel Education and see how it looks like. Again, it's delimited. I will use the UTF-8 Unicode. It's still commas. And this one looks much cleaner. Still a bit of weird stuff in dates, but it looks cleaner than the other one. And here I am. So indeed, again, I did a list of stuff that I learned in school. So that's why I've got some weird elements. But if I just get rid of those and I copy paste them again here from Excel, then I should get something pretty clean, pretty fast. And there are only 3 schools in my curricula, so this is what it looks like. Let me unhide the one that I've already cleaned. Here is what it looks like, my school name. I broke it down into, so here you see 4 schools because I actually did an exchange year, so then I was back to the same school, but if I don't break it down, then it's difficult to show these different moments in my education. And then I listed again the topics that I studied, added a degree name, and listed the activities. And all of this, sorry if it's a bit long, but I wanted to show you how I cleaned this one, the positions and the education CSVs, because then the idea is that I consolidated them inside one single file, single tab, which is this one. And in white, you see the things that haven't changed from the education and positions tabs. And in yellow, those are stuff that I've added because it helps to create something interesting and interactive in Tableau. So when I've put the header in yellow, it just means that I gave it a new title. So it used to be school name and company name. I just made it organization. Then title hasn't really changed for the professional experience, but I've put the degree that I've obtained in the title. And then description is description of positions and classes followed. City was in both data sets, and starting and ending date were also in both data sets. Then for ease of recognition by Tableau, I used country. I added a country field where I listed all the countries. I added one type column that says whether this is professional or academic experience. And finally, in case some of your experiences may not be totally, how to say, not transparent, but very famous to most people, then you might want either to add the organization's website or the Wikipedia page related to the organization. What I found was that when I was looking for organizations' websites, I often got websites that didn't have an HTTPS version, that were using the old HTTP protocol that's considered not too secure by Tableau. And so when I published to Tableau Public, the pages that were in HTTP would not display. And if they don't have a HTTPS equivalent, then you cannot get them to display with by just adding a S here. So that's why I went for the simpler Wikipedia page, because Wikipedia has always an HTTPS version. And also, if you followed my embedding web objects in a dashboards webinar, you probably know the tip that in Wikipedia you can add an M here between the language and Wikipedia, and then it will display a mobile version. So it will make the Wikipedia page much thinner and easier to read if you want to integrate it in a dashboard. All right. Okay, someone is saying that they're having trouble with the audio. Is that the case for everyone, or is it just someone who cannot connect? Let me know. Okay, great. Well, that guy will probably try to reconnect. Sure, superb. Great. All right, so this is the dataset we're going to use. Some cool additions before we move on that you could get your hands on right now would be to find the logos associated to each organization. So you would go Google Images. Let's say my school in France was Sciences Po. Then what I want is, I usually use PNGs as logos because they're a bit lighter usually. So I do file type PNG. And you see it opens the tools section and limits the choices to PNG files. Then when you want some cool logos, you usually want them to be transparent because otherwise they will look ugly. They will cover each other up and they won't look good on the dashboard. So choose transparent in color. And the best, of course, is to have something that's labeled for reuse. It's not always available. And if it's for a private resume, I don't think your ex-school or ex-company would sue you if you use their logo, but just, yeah, if you can find one that's labeled for reuse, just use that one. So I get this one. You see it's transparent indeed. I will just go ahead and save it. So I'm going to save the image in, and if you've never saved custom shapes, I'll let you focus a little bit on where I'm going to find my shapes folder. So I'm going Documents, and then I will look for a folder that's called my Tableau repository here. And then I have this Shapes folder inside my Tableau repository. And here I can, you see you have the original ones, the ones that are native in Tableau, like arrows, backtracking, bars. And then you've got all the ones that I've added. So I have one that's called Resume, and I already have the Sciences Po icon here. But that's where you would save it. You would save your organization icon. So you call the folder Resume or CV or organizations or whatever. but that's where you save your images. And you click save and you're good. They will be here available to use later on. Cool. So once you've done that, you're ready to start using Tableau. So let me open Tableau Public. Oops. And we will connect to the nice timeline dataset that we just created. It's an Excel. Here. Timeline. And let's see if the dates are, the dates are recognized. The geographic fields are okay. Everything looks good. So let's see what kind of stuff we can create in Tableau to try to give a good representation of our professional experience. The four types of charts that I want to show you today are Gantt chart, like this. Maps are easy to make, but we can see how it would look and if it makes sense. Bar charts for skills, we're going to create from another data set once we're done with the Gantt and the maps, and same for the skills with obsolescence. I want to show you how the two CVs that we saw in the examples that use obsolescence of skills made their data sets. So let's start with the Gantt chart for now. To create a Gantt chart, you need a start date and you need a duration. So if I just bring on a start date and then I choose Gantt chart, I see this. And then if I try to use, I don't know, finish date, nothing's happening. It won't work. Because to make a Gantt chart, what you need is a duration. So we'll need to create a formula that uses the start and the finish dates to determine the duration of each experience. Let's do that together. I will create a calculated field that I will call duration of experience. And if you go into the dates formulas, you see that you have a little help menu, and one of the formulas is called date diff, and it says returns the difference between two dates where start date is subtracted from end date. So that sounds exactly what we're looking for. I will go date diff. And then it even tells me what I need. So it tells me I need the date part. And the date part is, if I look at the end of the explanation, it can be month, but it can also be day or year. Here I actually want days. So I go ahead with day and then I'll just say started on. And I also need my finished on field. Then you can specify if you want the date to start on Sunday or Monday, but here it's not mandatory and we don't really see a use for this here. So let's keep our formula like this. Sorry, typo. Okay, so now I've got my duration of experience here. And to code the different Gantt bars, what I need to do is to bring the duration of the experience onto size. And now I can see something that looks better, more like a Gantt. And sorry. And next, what I will do is I will bring the level of details. So the organizations, for instance. And I can also I can actually do two rows. One would be academic and one would be professional. It might be easier to read for a recruiter. So this is contained in type, academic, professional. And I'll just break the rows into two like this. And then that's when you can start getting creative by putting the logos if you want. I think it's not looking too good now because I'm using the years instead of a full date. So I will just right click on year and then go day like this, and now it looks much cleaner. If you're not really aware about the difference between the top options and the bottom options, those are discrete variables and those are continuous variables, so they will be plotted on a continuous axis. All right, so now it starts to look a bit better. I see like that this is my academic experience. I see each of the different institutions I've been studying at. And then here I took a gap year, so you see a few internships, and then this is the actual professional experience. So that's when you can start putting colors and use your icons. It's really up to you. I don't want to give you a recipe for something standardized. I really want you to experiment. So if we want to experiment quickly, we could put colors like this. It would be super ugly. Or what I could do is use the dual axis so that I can have both my bars and then a logo on top of my bars. So let's do that quickly. To create a dual axis, I just need to duplicate this axis here. So I will control click and move it next to the first one, and that just duplicates my Gantt. And then if I want my logos on the second chart, I can go in the marks area here that's related to the second chart, and I can say for this one I actually want shapes. So you see the shapes here. I don't necessarily want the size to be based on duration, but I do want the shape to be associated with each organization's logo. So I bring organization to shape, and then by default it's using this shape palette, but I do have my resume palette somewhere here. And then I can go ahead, I can assign the palette, check that it's correct. Here it's not correct. Some have been misplaced, so I'll just correct it manually. Tableau is good. Okay. The rest is good. Let me make it bigger so that you can see. I will make the logos a bit bigger as well. And now the only thing you need to do to make your dual axis is select your second peel and go dual axis here at the bottom. And we are a bit off because I haven't synchronized my axis. So I'll right click this axis and say synchronize axis. And we are still a bit off because my logos are positioning on the start date instead of the middle of the bar. So I could create a formula to solve this problem. It would look something like this. So you would need to, I'll just recreate it. You use the started date and then you add the duration date divided by 2. So this would give you the middle of your period. So let me create this calculated field. I'll make it bigger if you want to take note. And this I can call centering logo. And if I just replace this guy by my centering logo date, now my logos are centered. Okay, so that was the first chart we were able to create. Other stuff we might do would be based on the location. Let me just rename this one Gantt. This one will be our map. I just looked at the questions and I don't see any questions, so I just hope you guys are enjoying and finding cool ideas and not totally lost. Let me know if something was too quick. Okay, so Gantt map, let's do it quickly because it's, I guess most of you know how to do that. I could just go country by country or city by city. And then I could use my logos again, so I could I could change the marks to shapes, use my organizations on shapes, make that bigger, and then we would be able to see what's been happening in each country. And if you find it too overwhelming like this, you could use type as a filter so that people can choose to see only the academic things or the professional things or both. So that would be another option. Same if you've been traveling quite a lot and you list that in your hobbies, you might be able to make a nice map to show that, and even complete the data set of your trips with maybe a link to a blog or a link to or a description of the trip or this kind of thing. Uh, so really be creative, and the idea here is to show your data visualization skills. All right, cool. So let's move on to the next type of chart, the bar chart for skills. Here I've chosen languages for skills, and let me show you how I did it. So I will create a new sheet and I will import the data from languages from LinkedIn. So I go again from text. It's called languages.csv, delimited. Here, I don't think I have any accent, but I'll just repeat so that you see again UTF-8, comma. All right. And this is what LinkedIn has for you in terms of your languages if you've listed that in your LinkedIn profile. So that looks nice, but the thing is that you don't have any measure, any numerical value to rate your languages. So you will just need to add a rank 0 to 5, for instance, column, and then rank what professional working proficiency would mean on a 0 to 5 scale. So I'd say it's a 4.5, or rather, sorry, this one would be a 4. The full professional proficiency would be a 4.5. Bilingual would be a 5, and elementary proficiency, I don't know, depending on how you feel, could be a 2 or a 3 or a 2.5. So this would be languages rating. And now if you import this data source into Tableau, so you just go new data source, Excel, my CV in Tableau, and you can bring in your languages. You see it's very easy. I create a new sheet that I will call languages. And then what I need to do is simply bar chart. So you can go with the show me menu, name, rating, create a bar chart for me. And then you could use the proficiency in the tooltip so that people know what you mean by the rating. You can even hide the scale, which is just something that we did so that Tableau would be able to understand the proficiency level. Can get rid of the rating in the tooltips as well. And so now you get this nice bar chart of your skills that you can then order in decreasing level of proficiency. And if you want, you can also add some custom shapes with the flags of each countries. So that might be a nice addition. I'll show you the trick to do the dual axis again if you're still not very familiar with this. I'll just control click on some rating and bring it next to the first one so that I get two charts. Then I go here and change to shapes. And for shapes, I will use my languages, which is, the name is not very clear, but that's the LinkedIn name. So I'll just rename it language. Language I bring to shape. And then I do have a palette of flags. So very quickly, I'll find France, Spain, Indonesia, Chinese should be at the beginning, and English. I'll say, yeah, I think my English is more American than British. So here you go, and then you do the dual axis thing again. So you right click on the right peel, go dual axis, hide your axis. You see that sometimes Tableau will think that the bars and the icons do not really match. So it changed that to a circle. Depending on how you like it, you might just want to have a big circle. Sorry. Yeah, you might want to have something like this. Might be a cool effect to have a little bit of a halo, like instead of the bars. But if you do want the bars, you just bring them back and you adjust the size, the color. And here you've got, so you can hide as well the headers because they're not really useful. and you could add the proficiency level to the labels so that it's easy for people to read it. Put them maybe at the beginning of your marks like this. Something like this could be your language skills. All right. So still, there is a lot of room for improvement. I'm just showing you the different charts that would look good on an interactive CV. And I really want to show you how to make this skills with obsolescence data set. So let's move on. Don't worry if it goes a bit fast on this part. There is actually a tutorial that was done by Mark Jacobs. Sorry, not Mike. Sorry, what's his name again? Mark Jackson and not Mark Jacobs. Mark Jackson, and he explains as well how he did this. So the idea is that you will list the skills, the tech skills like SPSS, Excel, Tableau, MySQL, whatever skill you've learned, HTML, and then you would have a time axis here. So this is not easy to read by Tableau, but this is the best for our human brains to enter the information properly, because this is information that we invent. There is no, unless you've been taking certifications every month to prove your level, this is really something based on your feeling about your skills. And I think it's a really positive thing if you can be honest about your skills and recognize that when you don't work on a skill, you lose it. This is something that should reassure your employer about the fact that you know you need to work to maintain a skill. And so I just went and listed my skills for these three tools. So SPSS, I learned it while I was in university in Mexico. So basically, I started from zero, and then very quickly I reached the average level, not too bad level. And then when I left university and stopped using it, very soon I forgot everything. So then it's all zeros. For Excel, I learned it in my internships in 2011. So in 2012, when I picked SPSS, I still had a pretty good level. Which improved in my first job, and then it lowered when I took sabbatical, and when I reached Tableau, I didn't really need to use Excel that much, so it remained at a 4. And for Tableau, I was at 0, and then I started getting interested in it in 2014, and only when I took my interviews did I really start working hard on it. And as I joined, I picked up the skills, and I consider myself a 4.5. So let's bring this data set into Tableau. I will just go data, new data source. I bring my Excel again, and this is the last sheet I want to use, tech skills. And of course, you know here that it's not going to work if I keep my years in the headers, like my dates. So what I need to do here is pivot. I need to select all the columns with a date in the header. And once I've selected them all, I click on the little arrow here and go pivot. And what it does is just make this in a vertical format. So I'll show you we're not losing any data. It's just that all my data is looking vertical. All the dates are repeated here, and all the values associated are here. And you see Tableau SPSS Excel, Tableau SPSS Excel. I'll just rename the fields. This would be date, and that would be level. And my date hasn't been recognized, so I'll click on ABC and date and time. Oh, sorry, that's not a date and time, that's just a date. So I'll just make it a date. And now I'm ready to create this obsolescence line chart. So this is just a normal line chart, which I will create by bringing year onto columns. I'll choose month by month because this is the level of detail I have for this data. And then I'll just bring level to rows. Here you see that it's a sum, so it gives me some pretty weird stuff. I might want to give it aggregation on average. So now we are back to something better. And this is the average of all of my skills because I haven't brought the tool. So now I bring tool to color, and I see one different line for each of the tools of the skill sets. I can give a color that is more clearly linked to each tool. So Excel would be a green, maybe a darker green than this, maybe a green like that. SPSS would probably be a bluish, and Tableau is probably an orange. And to make it look cooler, because my curves are not really neat, like you saw, you see I had a very quick learning curve for Tableau, which makes just an angle, so it doesn't look too nice. What I do to smooth the angles would be to use level and size, so that I have like a comet kind of graph. And then you can add the tool onto labels, match the label with the color, and this is starting to look pretty good. You can move Excel. Yeah, you can move Excel here if you want. If you see it's a bit crammed, you can just play around with the text to make them appear in better areas. And you're good with your text skills. All right, so then you would bring all of this into a dashboard. You really have to think about what makes sense. For instance, the map doesn't really make sense. It takes a lot of space and it's a bit repetitive. So unless you are applying for, I don't know, an international organization and you really want to make them understand that you've been traveling and you're a citizen of the world, then maybe the map makes sense. Otherwise, I would suggest that you stick with a Gantt chart. There is a lot of cleaning to do, of course, like hiding the headers and stuff. Your languages might be here. Your text skills might be next to it at the bottom. And then, of course, you would need some text, like a title. So resume, Jade Levan. That I could make big. This, and then you would put your contact info somewhere. So fat fingers, contact info, phone, email, etc. Something like this. And you could add some images to link to your social profiles. Sorry if that was a bit too fast. I bring an image object here. I choose logo, and I could have my LinkedIn somewhere. You fit the image to the size, and then you could bring another logo that would be for your Twitter. Same, you fit the image, and then you choose the URL that you want to associate. So if I go pick my LinkedIn URL, now when people will click on the button, they will go directly to my LinkedIn. You could have, I don't know if in your country it's common to have a picture of yourself somewhere, but you could definitely float a picture of yourself if it's relevant. So whatever. All right, let's use this silly picture. Float it. See, you could have it somewhere if it's important in your specific country or industry. And then what I told you about having a web page showing the organization info, let's say like Asia Center or ITAM are not necessarily very famous in your parts of the world. So if I really want you to understand what they are like, I might bring in a web object somewhere. And I leave it empty for now. But what I will do is I will bring my Wikipedia URL into this chart, and then I can create a dashboard action that will trigger the URL to display here. So I go back to my Gantt chart. I use organizations Wikipedia in detail. And now I can create a dashboard action that is URL triggered. That would go from my Gantt on selection into the web object that I have, and it would be triggered by the organization's it would trigger the organization's Wikipedia page. So now when I click on ITAM, nothing happens. Let me see what I did wrong. Gantt. Oh, where did I put it? I put it on the shape. Maybe I will put it. All right, I didn't put it on the shape. I put it on the bar. So if I click on the bar itself, yeah. So obviously I should have put it in the whole, in all. So I go back here, organizations, Wikipedia, and now it should trigger when I click on both the icon and the shape, both the icon and the bar. Yeah, you see it's not optimal. It really has to be worked on a little bit to look nicer. But those are all examples of things you can do when you start to build your interactive CV. It's all about creativity. If you see the variety of stuff that are already out there, you might get some good ideas. Just note that not all of them are downloadable because this is, of course, quite private data. This is people's lives that they show in a resume. So don't expect all of them to be downloadable, but some will be. And there are some extra tutorials that you can use if you're curious about how other people did. So this Mark Jackson, not Mark Jacob, did a tutorial about how he created his resume. So let me share that with you in the chat. And there is also one by my colleague Lenny Biddle, who also wrote a tutorial about her own resume creation. It looks like this, a bit more like what we were aiming at with the Gantt and certifications. And she's also listed all the tools that she's proficient with, so that's another way to do it. All right. I don't know if you have any questions. I'm not going to publish it. You probably all know how to publish to Tableau Public. That would be here, save to Tableau Public as. It would arrive on your profile, and then you would be able to embed it or share the URL with anyone. Is there anything you wanted to be covered and I didn't cover? If so, we can probably have a follow-up resume webinar beginning of the year, because that's usually when people are full of energy and willing to really start looking for that new job. Otherwise, I'll just wish you a happy evening or a good day. And you'll be receiving a follow-up email within the next 48 hours, including the link to the video and the resources.